All right. Are we live here? It says we're live.
Hey, you guys, this has been the smoothest onboarding yet. You are here. We are here all in the same place. Let us know if you guys can hear us talking. That'd be a good start. You could hear us, you could see us. Let us know where you're watching in from. It's always fun to hear where you're watching in from. And it's fun to see that you guys already have some comments here. We have some very concerned commenters as to what you fed the children when I was away.
Wow. That was the one thing I made clear. I was not going to speak to that. That is the one question that
you guys
I might answer that question later on.
Stay tuned. Elisha's dramatic, okay? Anyone who's been listening to his Top 5 Tuesday for a while knows he's a little dramatic. So he was not feeding them rat poison, and no one was actually like had the tummy flu or anything. But anyways, good to see you guys.
Okay, well, thank you all for jumping on here. I love, some people that early on there, Katie Babe, were asking about like Advent plans. I know that, the holiday season is here. It's upon us. And we've done some different things in years past for the Advent season. Last year was really unique because we were living in the tent for, I guess, was it till December 20th? Mm-hmm. So really, the majority of that Advent season, we were in the tent. And so our traditions were a bit different. They were very special, I will say. As we look back on that season, because we were living in the tent this time last year, and it's funny because so much of our day during that time was so challenging, but the evenings were so sweet for the entirety of our time at the tent there.
Yeah, it was really fun. So some things that we missed that we're going back to this year is we have that little, it's like a little wooden house, and you pull out the boxes and it says, you can write something that you're going to do each day and put it in the box. And so it's kind of like make your own advent calendar. And so what I put in the box every morning is a vitamin, because everyone's immunity is down. We aren't doing candy or something like that. Like those chocolate every day advent calendars, like I'll have chocolate every day, every other month, but not Christmas. So anyways, they each get a vitamin in the morning, and then we pull out a little thing that we get to do. And so it might be as simple as like make pancakes, but instead of like regular round ones in the shape of like gingerbread men, or we've gone on this little like cruise down to see the lights at the lake before, go get the tree. I don't know, just something special that we had to do. Family movie night, So I would say that's like our longest running tradition, having a gingerbread house making contest.
Yeah, we have gone back and forth each year. I don't know if we watch both of these movies each Christmas season or if we choose one of them, but there's the It's a Wonderful Life that we watch.
We cry.
And then Christmas Story. Those are the two that we...
Is that the one with the shoot your eye out?
Yeah, that's right.
Isn't that what that's called? The Christmas Story? Okay, so I wouldn't recommend, I don't feel like I can in good conscience recommend the Christmas Story.
Was that right?
Oh, yeah.
that movie gets better each year that I watch it.
So funny. But okay, so you introduced me to that. Oh. And I was a little shocked the first time I watched it. Just a little shocked. I think you get kind of like the humor and stuff. I don't know. It's not crazy. It's a cute movie. But I think there's a few like swear words in it and a few things that like as our kids get older, I'm like, I don't know if it's going to be a thing or not. Or even like, the leg lamp in the window.
Oh,
it's funny, but I don't know if the kids are going to...
Sure, kind of suggestive.
We might just kind of skip over that chunk. I don't know. So we'll see, but it is really funny.
Yeah, we're not here to recommend any movies, honestly. Okay? If you ever hear us talking about a movie and enjoying it, that is not an endorsement. Okay? We will be clear on when we're endorsing a movie. Speaking of which, Free Burma Rangers, has everybody seen that? We were scheduled to be interviewing that man, Dave Eubank, right before this live. We were not able to.
Elisha's still nursing his wounds.
I am. I'm so disappointed. I love that guy so much, and I'm so inspired by him. But so hopefully we'll be able to reschedule. But Free Burma Rangers is a documentary that I would recommend. I not only enjoyed that, I endorse it as well. Okay, some other questions.
Oh, wait, real quick. Yeah. Before we move on from the Advent season, I would love to hear you guys in the comments. Let us know what you do for the Advent season, because we do really want... So I grew up not celebrating Christmas. If you guys are longtime listeners of the podcast, you know that. So I didn't come in with any tradition. And then Elisha kind of did a little bit of both. So his
Mm.
traditions didn't run that deep, I would
Right.
say, aside from like your family's Christmas concerts that you have done for a long
Sure.
time now.
Yeah.
So that said, in terms of spiritually, we would like to read, we've always read the Christmas story, but I think it would be really cool this year to start at Jesus's birth and read through his death and resurrection with the kids over the month and just kind of get that full picture of him coming to him dying. So anyways, that is a desire, but like what do you guys do? Because we do want it to be a season where the kids are focused on what Christ has done in our lives, and we don't have, I would say, we don't have a lot of like, I don't
Yeah, I
know,
guess traditions for that.
tradition.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
don't
we
have.
don't.
Yeah, we want to emphasize the incarnation and God becoming man, taking on
Mhm.
flesh, coming into this world, which is wild. That gets crazier to me each year as we emphasize that. Clearly it's a reality year round, but it is nice that the season really emphasizes that and kind of puts it right at the forefront of all your thinking. Somebody was asking about a hair care routine, and I'm assuming they're asking me. So I don't know if you want me to
Your
go
hair's
ahead
looking
and jump
pretty
into that.
good.
No, Katie,
And
what's
you've
your?
got a lot of it for 34, 35.
I'm
You just turned
35.
35.
Just turned 35. Katie, but what's your
Good
hair
mom.
care routine? Because I'm assuming they're actually not speaking about my hair care routine.
You guys, I have the worst hair care routine. I use Pantene shampoo once a week. That's it. That's my hair care routine. I do think, so I was completely bald at 4 years old, right? Like I lost the whole patch in the back of my head. I look like a medieval monk. And then my dad shaved the rest of my head so it matched. And so everyone thought I was a little boy. And then at 19, the same thing happened again. It was stress related. I have some thyroid issues. And so, anyways, liver issues. And so,
I was not the stress at
no,
that point.
no, you wasn't.
No, I didn't.
I have not lost hair since being married to you, which is amazing.
Wow, what a blessing.
I know, it's wonderful. So, anyway, so I wore a ton of extensions and stuff like that. And that's when I found Neolife supplements, which you guys know we sold for a really long time. We still have ongoing customers we are actively promoting. And my sister now runs Now That I'm a Mother Health.com. But I feel like those supplements, they grew my hair back in. I have not lost it since. And it might have been Mary and Elisha. It might have been the supplements. But either way,
I'm sure it's a combination.
I do think that that's what gives me my healthy hair. So that's what I swear by. But
yeah, we still take those supplements every day.
Yeah.
We are so grateful for them, especially now in this season, as Katie already mentioned.
Yeah.
Going into the holiday season, I'm like upping my dose on any of the immunity related vitamins. I really want to be healthy and avoid any sickness that's coming down our way.
Wow. Okay. I'm saying, whoa, been a long time watching you from Paris. Stay blessed. It's so fun to hear where you guys are watching from. This one, Emily says, yep, it's Christmas Story on 24 Hours in the Midwest.
Nice.
Christmas. Which is just fun.
Yeah, I saw earlier somebody was listening or watching from Croatia, I think, which is cool. Somebody was asking, Katie, are you still doing CC? It seems like they're doing they said it seems like they're doing a pretty big push right now, marketing campaign.
You know what's funny is I'm not really familiar with what their marketing campaign is. Elisha and I have talked about this, where it's like sometimes you get in your corner of the internet. I'm not saying that's what happens. We're over in our corner of the internet, right? And it seems like something is really popular. And then I talk to someone else about it and they're like, you know,
like, who are the free Burma Rangers?
Every video, yeah, exactly, is recommended to us around this topic. So like, it might be like if you're researching classical conversations or something, like I'm just so out of that loop. I don't think I'm getting that in that information. We are doing the Essentials program with Leon and I bring Lucy. I love it. I would love to do it for all of our children. It probably would make more sense just to do the program at home, honestly, now that I kind of have the flow of how to teach it and stuff. But it's an amazing program. It's just hard to figure out what to do with the other kids the rest of the day. We don't do any other elements of classical conversations, but I really love the writing program.
Nice. That's great.
Okay.
What else there's a bunch of great questions. It's just choosing the right ones. Somebody was asking, I'm going to go back up here.
Let's see here. Gabby, loyal listener for 2 years. Awesome. Good to see you. Would love. Okay, let's see. How do you manage your time to achieve all your plans, Elisha?
Well, we don't always achieve all of our plans. And I think that is, the Katie and I are dreamers and visionaries. And learning the skill of measuring progress and counting that has been critical to continuing forward, because when you set big goals, you increase your likelihood of not achieving them. And so often, and we all can all relate to setting the New Year's resolution, making New Year's resolutions and then falling off the bandwagon 3 weeks in or 3 months in or whatever. And so I think that, number one, we don't achieve all of our goals, or
Mhm.
fulfill all of our um, desires, when it comes to what we want to accomplish in this world. But I think on a very practical level, Katie and I being on the same page when it comes to more bookends, like mornings and evenings, when we're on the same page with going to bed and getting up early, I feel like it's this unfair like advantage of being each other's really ally, and not, I guess, and not promoting habits that are unhelpful to your goals, right? Because it's like, once you're clear on your goals, then you have to start stripping down your life practically and being like, okay, well, is this helpful to this goal, or is it a hindrance to this goal? And sometimes you identify them and they're not. If it's a hindrance, it's not easy to get rid of usually, right? It's like a habit that's ingrained. And so when you realize, man, if I substitute the hour and a half in the evening for an hour and a half in the morning, that's
Mhm.
usually as simple as it is. Like, if we've got a big goal, we know it's got to happen in the morning. And this goes back to our first week of marriage, getting back from our honeymoon, and we were building that Neolife business. We
Mhm.
knew we needed to do it in the first hour of the morning. We'd get up and we bust out our power hour. And
Mhm.
that continues to be what we do to this day. If we've got a big goal right now, we've been doing that, with some writing goals that we
Mhm.
have, where it's like, that's the thing that we're hitting first thing in the morning when the kids are still asleep. And that's only possible if you have that discipline in the
Gotta go to
evening.
bed.
You got to go to bed. Right. And so it's usually, okay, not watching the show, going to bed earlier, cutting the conversation off, not playing music, not hanging out with friends. You're sacrificing something or giving something up for a bigger win. And so that's always what we do. And the reason we don't flip flop it and say, like, well, why don't you just work in the evening? And it's just straight up because we're less productive in the evening. Like,
Mhm.
we know that our morning hours are very productive and focused. And so that's I guess, a practical answer.
Yes, that's a very practical answer. Okay, as a wife, how can I support my husband to grow spiritually and with his career? How would you say a wife could support her husband in those areas?
Wow, is this just a Q&A for me all of a sudden? I'm gonna
I
start
don't know.
asking
You
the
were
next questions,
no,
but
no. I'm serious.
uh, yeah, that's a good question. I think that hmm, I'm curious as to how you would answer this, Katie, because I do feel like some of the, and we talked about this maybe on our last episode, but when men get into ruts or they find themselves in funks, um, pointing that out or trying to push them out of it or pull them out of it
Mhm.
in a way that you might think is helpful is oftentimes not helpful.
Mhm.
And yet I know you've done things to get me out of ruts and to give me more vision. And I know this is a different question, right? It's not the exact same question, but I think a lot of the same principles
Mhm.
apply. Um, but it is powerful, just even in I know I just brought up Dave, Eubank and Free Burma Rangers because we were getting ready for our interview. So I was reading and, watching his stuff a lot. Um, but it is powerful when a man has clarity of a vision. And if your husband's lacking vision, you, I think, need to try to facilitate uh, him being around people that give vision. And again, practically speaking, my father-in-law, Chad Johnson, that was a life-changing moment when I first met Chad and I first heard him speak at a family camp when I was, man, what was I, 12, 13, 14, something like
Mhm.
that. And he continues to be a source of inspiration where when he speaks to family, into manhood, into parenting, into being married, I am inspired to grow. And he's not the only person. I'm inspired by a lot of the local people that I'm around. But I would say, get my father-in-law's book, Chad Johnson's book, even To Win a Heart. Like, men are inspired by that book. It's funny because that book is kind of branded and marketed towards women,
Mhm.
but it impacts men more than women.
Yeah, it's kinda interesting.
Yeah, and he's even talked about repackaging that and rebranding it so that it's clear, like, hey, this is really a book for men. So I would say that, and then yeah, just finding people that inspire them to be around. I Every week when I go to Father Son Ministry, and I get to be around Bill Rapier, I'm inspired. He's just an inspirational figure to me, and he makes me level up in many ways. And so yeah, I think that
Mhm.
oftentimes in the church and with Christianity, um, we strip men's like actual God-given capabilities and their bents away from them and say like you can only be inspired in these ways,
Mm.
in memorizing scripture and in whatever, discipling your family. And I think that God made us to be complete beings that are out seeking adventure. We're providing, we're conquering, and that is very practical and physical, and then and spiritual as well, right? And so I think that just viewing maybe your husband as that holistic person, where if he they feed each other, right? Like when I'm motivated in business, it feeds my spiritual life because I'm looking at that through a biblical worldview, Lord willing, and vice versa. I don't know.
That's good. That's really good. Someone here says you're on the spot. So
I felt like I was on the spot, put on the
you
spot
did
there.
a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you did a great job. Thank you. I do think that whole episode that we did on like respect, that's not specifically what this question was, but I do think that this is a way where it's easy to disrespect our husbands because we want to like motivate them and we're trying to figure out how to do it, or we're frustrated with them. And so I do think it's very applicable to kind of consider,
Yeah.
okay, is this respecting them, even addressing it? Someone mentioned here screen-free routines, evening routines for my husband, and I think that would kind of go, I think we kind of address some of that stuff in that respect episode too.
Yeah. And here's the thing, and I don't want to like open a can of worms unnecessarily, but I do think that the majority of, and I don't know everybody's traditions that you're a part of here, but many of the traditions I grew up in, Christian traditions, were very feminine, and they were uncomfortable with men being masculine, and I think that still permeates. I don't know if that's your situation, entirely, because I don't think it's like across the board, but I still think that permeates Western kind of Christianity, where people are uncomfortable with men being men in the sense that they're being confident, they're leading, they're taking risk, and so I think that even if you're not encouraging that, being okay, being a little bit uncomfortable with your husband doing something that is, again, not immoral, of course, not sinful,
No.
but something that might get him excited. That's an adventure that requires some risk, and
Yeah, I think a lot of guys sit back and just start being passive because then no one gives them a hard time.
yes,
And so
exactly,
then we're like, okay, now I have to get my prod and like get you off the couch.
exactly.
But it's like, it's a response to like, I don't want to create trouble here.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. There
So
is.
I don't know. It's kind of tricky. It's a tricky balance, just culturally.
It is
And
culturally.
like we were raised in the culture we live in. So I think we have a lot more of the culture in us,
Right.
or been impacted by it a lot more, even if we weren't raised certain ways.
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean?
I don't think that was my dad, and I don't think that was
Mhm.
your dad, but I still think those were the general communities we
Yeah.
were in, where you just kind of, yeah, it was, it's the old saying, like the only way, is it like Oscar Wilde or something, that's like, the only way to not offend anybody is to like say nothing,
Do
do nothing,
nothing.
and be nothing. And I think that oftentimes kind of men just kind of take that route, where Christian men, where it's like, I don't want to rock the boat here. Happy wife, happy life. Like, let's just kind of not do anything. And that's obviously wrong. But I do think if you kind of give them some grounds to do something without immediate negative reaction, then that could be a way to encourage it.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, what else we
Okay,
got?
yeah. What do I got here, Katie? What do
I don't
got
know. You
here?
have the computer over there. Your eyesight is way better than mine because I thought mine was good, but I cannot read this stuff.
Katie, what would you go back and say to yourself in college?
What would I go back and say to myself in college?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Or that's what they're wondering. And I'm wondering too.
I don't know. I mean, I know that sounds really dumb. I think in college it was kind of a tricky time of life because I don't really have any regrets from that season, but I was at 21, I married Elisha, like right after I turned 21. So I think I was really preparing for marriage and I was taking steps in that direction. And I think I've like made good calls, the Lord blessed, and giving my parents wisdom and me wisdom, and considering like education and debt and stuff like that. I felt like I was still able to pursue things I enjoyed without going into marriage with a lot of debt or, some kind of something I'd have to pay off in
Mhm.
marriage with time or money or anything like that. So yeah, I probably would have like focused more on getting my passport or something
Yeah.
because that has been a nightmare for us ever since I've gotten married. I have a delayed birth certificate and it just makes I just keep getting temporary passports and I can't get a long one.
Yeah. 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 Good.
I mean, I don't know what I would tell. Like, I'm just very happy with how things have worked out.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I probably would have been a little less stressed. You know, and I lost my hair that second time at 19 to 20. So it was right before Elisha and I got married. So, I mean, I probably would have been a little less stressed knowing what I know now. But when you're in that moment, it's hard to know.
Yeah. I know it is
You
hard
know,
to know.
like I didn't know what I didn't know.
Right.
And it was a stressful season. So I don't know. I'd probably encourage Lucy to do something similar to what I did in terms of like, I'm very happy with how my years went.
Hmm.
I don't know what you would say, but I was very happy with
Yeah. I
what
mean,
I
I'm
did for
glad you feel
college.
that
I
way.
did school online.
Mhm.
I worked. I was trying to figure out entrepreneurialism, working from home. So I was really interested in a lot of things that I do now.
Yeah. Yeah. I really admire the way that you spent those few years that you had post high school, pre-marriage, because it is a unique window, right? And it's that length is different for everyone because we don't know when God's going to bless us with marriage, or if He will bless us with marriage. And so you want to steward those years wisely. And it's interesting because marriage is such a worthy thing to esteem, to aspire to, right? And we should hold marriage up in a lofty position and do what we can to prepare ourselves for it. But then, like you have to that's all you can do, really, right? Like you
Yeah.
can't force someone to marry you, you can't force somebody to fall in love with you, and you can't like demand from God to give you a spouse on this date. And so it is a really interesting season, and I really admire the way you spent that season.
Well, it was short for me. So I do think that it's a lot more challenging the longer that season goes. So
Yeah. Real quick on that topic, they
Yeah.
ask what did your parents do to help you prepare for being a husband or /wife, husband and wife?
Okay, what about you?
Oh,
Husband.
yeah. I mean, I think the best thing you can do is, again, have a healthy marriage. And, if you're a father, then you cherish your children's mother, right? Like, I think my dad did that. He really did lead my mother so lovingly and in a bold and courageous way. And then also just speaking well of marriage. I think that, yeah, like, again, even just after, piggyback on what I just said, like, it's just a good thing to aspire to. It's a good thing to try to prepare yourself for practically. And so if you're a man, like, doing very practical things to increase your earning capacity, to grow spiritually so that you can, lead in a way that's, yeah, that's helpful to your wife. And so I, I do think that just speaking well of it, and being ready for your children to get married younger than maybe what culture is expecting them to at this point. That it is an unfortunate expectation now on people ages like 18 until really 25. There's just no expectation. Where the best, like, my growth was expedited by marriage, and it was the best thing for me. And like, if I could have been married to you sooner, I wish I would, I would have taken that. It's like, that was because if I have regrets from my single years, I think a lot of those regrets wouldn't have happened if I was married in those seasons.
Yeah, we joke we could have 10 kids by now, if we just got married the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do think placing a high value on marriage. I think my parents just really lived out. They were great examples of who I wanted to emulate in marriage. So I would say that was the number one thing. I saw them having so much fun together. They did argue in front of us, but they also apologized in front of us. They also knew when it was time to take an argument behind closed doors and not have us see that as a child. I just think all that takes a lot of discernment and on a case by case basis. And they just loved marriage, and they still love marriage. And I admired seeing both of them go take the high road for the other person,
Right.
when they were wronged or when they had the right to kind of sit in their bitterness or resentment. And I saw that on both sides. And so that was something I really aspired to
Yeah. That's
in
good.
marriage. Okay. Exercise routine. A few people want to hear about the exercise routine.
Nice. Go for it,
Really?
Katie.
No, I'm asking you because I don't have one.
Well, you do. You've got your running club that
I
you're a
do.
part
I
of.
run on my running club every Monday. But
You just ran the
currently-
keys to me. I mean, that was so. I don't know if
ran
you
the
read
keys
the
to
email I
Elisha.
sent out today, but just a few days ago, I I needed Katie to run the keys to me. We've got like one of those cars where it senses the key, and so you can just
Too
start it.
smart.
And then Katie left with the key, and then I drove off. And this happens to us all the time. And so I don't know if it happens to anybody else all the time. But anyways, I couldn't start the car like a mile away from where Katie was, and so she just ran the keys to me, no big deal. She was ready to run back to where she came from, but I offered her a ride, and she took
You
that.
know what hurt the most were my earrings. I had these big gold earrings in. We're
Mm.
getting ready to go to someone's house. And it's just, that was uncomfortable. No, I feel like I would like to do more strength training and stuff like that. Hopefully we'll get into it. It's like at my morning hours, I feel like I allocate, it's just not priority for me right now
Mhm.
to be working out more than I am. It needs to be, but it hasn't been so far. I haven't figured out where that's going to fit. But Elisha's super consistent. You work out every single day.
Yeah, but it's not high intensity at all. And so I'm in a season where I care far more about like sustainability than I guess like achieving high performance. And so just yeah, every morning I take our dog out, and we live close to like national forest and some timber land as well, some timber company land that I have got access to. And so I get him out, and I say I go for a run, but it's really like a trot. I'm just kind of getting fresh air. I'm getting our dog out. Sometimes I just walk, kind of run, and then I come back to our shop and I lift weights for not like again, not high intensity at all, for like 20 minutes. I lift weights. And then the only thing that I do that I would say is like high intensity where I just like, really send it is jujitsu like 3 days a week, 3 or 4 days a week. And so that's like my current MO.
You did a really good job. I think something that we focused on a lot more in our 30s is our eating.
Yes.
I would say that's the number one thing that we both focus on in terms of health. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak for you because, again, you are so consistent with your working out. But it's like in our 20s, we would eat whatever and then you would still work out.
Right.
But then even when you worked out, whenever you eat whatever, you kind of swell up a little bit.
Yeah.
And I just get kind of like a little more of a tummy.
Right.
So, anyways, now we just are like more focused on what we eat. So, I feel like that said, I know working out is still so good for muscle and tone and body, I don't know what composition and stuff like that. But it's like, I do feel like a little bit more in control of my
Mm.
body with food. And so I think I feel less just dependent on working out.
Yeah, especially like in these seasons that I'm sure many of our listeners are in, where you've got children
Yeah.
and time is like you don't have an excess of
Precious.
time, right? Time is very, I guess, what's it called, scarce in this season, and so exercise that takes time, which it's such a worthy investment of time, and I love it, and I do it not just for the physical reasons. I just get outside and go for a walk, go for a run because it's just mentally so good for me.
Mhm.
But diet's one of those things that doesn't really take more time, right? It might take
Mhm.
some more intentionality, like
Mhm.
forward thinking and preparing ahead of time, but it actually doesn't take more time
No.
from you. And so, anyways, yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's a good thing to
exactly. So
focus
like
on.
when you're really busy with a bunch of little kids, sometimes like weight management can just be choosing to eat something versus not choosing to eat something versus like a 30-minute workout or an
Yeah.
hour workout. So that's kind of like my default if I'm not working out. It just focus on that. Okay, let's see here. Someone says, I just read the top 5 Tuesday. Where does Katie shop for her clothes? I'm finished having babies and would like to work on my clothing style as my appearance has taken a backseat, unfortunately. So in that video, I have linked all the little links to where I purchased my clothes. And you'll see it's just not real inspirational. I do love some readers on Substack have listed their favorite like quality clothing brands, and I would love to check those out. Those are new to me because I'll be honest, all my clothing, while I keep it for 5 or 10 years, is still fast fashion. Like it is not ethical, sustainable, all that stuff. So I don't know where we should stand on that.
Yeah.
Obviously growing in that area would be good.
It is nice when you are able to invest. Like I think I've got a sweater like
Mhm.
that, and then boy, I don't
Your Filson, your wool sweaters.
Sure. Yeah. The Filson I inherited from my grandpa, my wool sweater. I've got a few items that are just kind of these legacy pieces that I feel like I can have for forever. But
This woman asked, what do you do if your husband tells you he lost his belief in God, but he still supports you in your belief in the kids believing? I don't know what you would say to this, but a little encouragement I would just share is one of my good friends, her and her 2 brothers grew up in a home where only their mom was believing. and in Jesus, and her husband does not, and still does not to this day. And it's so sweet how my friend is now having, many children that are faithful, that are walking with the Lord. And she just speaks with so much love to her parents' marriage and how much they love each other and how much her mom just enjoys her dad. And I think there's something to, she was still able to grow up in a home that was unified because the mom understood rightly that she isn't responsible for her husband's salvation. So it's very, very difficult. And statistically, this is very challenging to raise children that love and know the Lord when your husband is not a believer.
Mm-hmm.
But it can happen. And I do think that a big testimony to the kids of your faithfulness is just how well you just love your husband as an unbeliever and trust that the Lord's going to do a work in his life. Just pray for him.
Yeah.
I don't know what you would say.
Well, what's the passage about the quiet conduct of the wife being able to
Yeah, Peter 3.
Is that
Peter?
Yeah, I mean, even look that up because it really is a powerful picture of the ministry that the wife can have towards an unbelieving husband and the role she can play in the saving of his soul, right? The conversion of him and him coming to faith. Did you find it?
Yes. Wives. Okay. So this is 1 Peter 3:1. Wives, in the same way, submit yourselves to your own husband, so that if any of them do not believe the word, which is your situation, they may be won over without words by the behavior of their wife when they see the purity and reverence of your lives. And I don't know what translation that is in. That's just the first one that came up. But it has a similar meaning in a lot of translations. So that's I just think that is such an encouraging verse. And if the Lord says that to women can just rest knowing that the Lord's going to take care of their husband, he is not their problem in that instance.
Right.
When he's an unbelieving husband, how much more can we do that with believing husbands?
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, we should always be praying for our spouses. And so prayer is a powerful thing because I think that, I don't know if anybody can relate to beginning in prayer, maybe out of just the discipline of it. Right. And so it might even seem like it's some trite, rote activity that you're beginning in, but then the Lord works through that. Right. It's like you start out of habit and then your sentiment then follows, right? You let your actions lead your emotions rather than vice versa. And then I just, because the thing is, if we've got believing spouses, they are in a spiritual battle as well, right? Like, yes, we are held by the Lord and we are saved and kept for him, but this is a battle that we're in. And so I just think that we should be constantly praying for our spouses. Not only are are we one with them, they are, if you have children, they are the parent of your children. And it's a spiritual journey that we're on here in this life.
That's really sweet. It says he even asked me to pray for him and he wants our kids to believe. Yeah, you're in a spiritual battle. Just pray. Stand by him and love him well. Amanda's asked this a couple times. So I'm going to answer it real quick. How do you handle homeschooling multiple ages at once? I have a 4 and 5-year-old now, and some days I feel like I'm being pulled in lots of directions to help them both. 35 weeks pregnant with a third. And I do think that you probably have, what a lot of homeschooling moms find themselves in, and just mothers in general, being pulled in a lot of different directions. So, I mean, I do cover this all in the homeschool course, and then I cover it really practically over at Substack as well. But just to give a couple tips here, because your life stage is always going to be shifting. As soon as I think just settle into knowing that as soon as something works, it's going to shake up again, because you're going to have, the infant's going to start crawling, and then they're going to be a 2-year-old. And so it's going to constantly be a juggling match. It's not going to be real static probably. But some things I like to do is have kids, an older child and a younger child, play together while I work with one. Or something that's also helpful is have, that's when you have your third, sometimes having 2 kids similar age play together. So instead of my oldest playing with the 2-year-old, we'll have the 2 and 4-year-old play together, because they kind of enjoy the same things. And then it doesn't feel like a babysitting job for an older child. But in your case, you have 2 kiddos, and I would just have them both sit at the table with you. And if one doesn't want to engage himself playing trains or stamps or something like that, have the other one at the table, have them both at the table, and just try to do things back and forth with both of them at the same time. That's kind of what I would do. I'd probably simplify my curriculum. I use very, very simple curriculums. So anyways, not a lot of hands-on prep or stuff like that, I guess.
Yeah. Someone asks practical things to increase your earning capacity. Yeah, I mean,
What would you say?
I think the first thing, even before you get into like strategies or ideas and concepts, is I and this is going to sound silly, but I feel like this took me so long to learn, and I'm continuing to learn it. Is just work more. I think a lot of us buy into like this. Oh, it's a 40-hour. Like I'm supposed to make a ton of money working 40 hours a week, and everybody that I know that's become a higher than average earner worked way more than that at either they currently do and always do, or for a huge season worked way more than that. And when I look at God's, original design that we're created to work 6 days and rest one, really leaning into that, being like, oh, okay, like life is like it's a lot of it is next to the glory of God, and it can be something that you can really lean into and embrace. And I don't think that you should refrain from improving the work that you're doing, right? If you're working in a bad environment, you shouldn't try to get out of work. You should try to get into a better work environment, I think. So I think the like retirement mindset or the kind of like life hacking mindset has led to a lot of people, myself included. I'm speaking just straight up for my own experience, thinking like, well, I should be able to make a lot of money in a very little bit of time. Where if you're able to do that, great. But you should, even if you're making a lot of money in a little bit of time, you should still be working in your other time, like because that's how God made us to do. Maybe you're not working for money, or maybe you're working in service, or training other people, or around your house, or whatever it is. And so I think getting out of the mindset of like 40-hour work weeks and trying, to double that. Maybe it's working a full-time job and then working the same amount of time. By full-time job, I mean, that 8-hour day or 40 hours a week, and then spending another 40 hours a week starting a business, the side hustle. And if you don't like that for forever, that's fine. Like it doesn't have to be the goal for forever, but there will probably be a season where you have to work 12-hour days, 13-hour days, 14-hour days, 6 days a week. And I do think it is good to rest the one day as God kind of, commissioned
Kind
and
of.
yeah, kind of, or yeah, he created us with
God
that,
kind of
with
mentioned.
that. Yeah, he commanded, and that can give you sustainability.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you brought that up. I was like curious what you were going to say, and I think that that's huge. And then I think from there, it's really going to look one of two ways. That's either you're going to start an entrepreneurial side hustle to improve your. Sorry, we've got so much light coming in here.
I know it's weird.
Um, or continue education. And we know people that have done it both ways, depending on personality, depending on what career field they're already in,
Mm-hmm.
or whatnot. One might be an easier on ramp than the other, but those are pretty much your only two options. So
Sure, and
you
by
just need to
continue
work
education,
more to do those.
a new trade, graduate school, going back to school.
Yeah, like one of my cousins, her husband, they have, how many kids do they have now? They just had their sixth. And let me see if I can get this light a little bit different. Do you think this will help at all?
I don't know.
I
I think it
don't
looks
know.
cool. It makes you look angelic, which,
Wow.
I mean, you always look angelic. What am I saying? The light only increases your angelic presence.
Is that a little better? No. Anyways, is what was I? Oh, her husband has been in school. They've lived in a little tiny house, and he's been in school for a decade to be a principal or something
Mm-hmm.
like that. Anyways, but he just got an incredible position at an incredible school, and now they feel really set for the next chunk of their life. But he's been putting in double time, like working for their family, providing a ton of different ways. They budgeted super tight, put all the money towards school for him to get this career. So anyways, it's going to look different for different people, but it's probably going to be painful.
Yeah, you get to kind of pick your pain, because if you can enjoy your shows at nighttime, but then the pain is just kind of like longer lasting, right? Those micro pains of not living where you want to live or not quite affording the things that you want to afford will just be longer and kind of exist your whole life. Or you can have a more intensive pain of like, I'm not going to watch shows, and I'm going to get up at 4, and I'm going to get less sleep, and not going to hang out with friends. And, you say no to those things for a time, and that is painful, but but then the payoff, is what you're doing it for.
It's awesome. Yeah. Hi from Scotland. Wow. How fun. What time is it in Scotland? I feel so bad. This is so like this, Elisha.
It doesn't look that bad when you look here.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just we got blinds coming. Katie ordered.
They actually were delivered today, but we don't get mail here at our house. We get it in town.
There you go. Nice. All right.
Okay, we're just gonna roll with that. What do you do when? Okay, real quick. How do you train your children to have a 1 hour quiet time for children who are toddlers? I only have one little girl who's 1.5 years old. She doesn't really spend time on her own, always with me. So this would just be like a training thing that you would just have to enforce. So if it's worth it to you, then you would have to, put her in her own space, explain the boundaries, give her clear expectations. This is a new thing. Here's your books, here's your bottle, here's, whatever your comforts are. Mama can leave the door open, but I'm going to be out here. And then you're going to have to discipline every time, however you choose to discipline, in order to enforce that new boundary. But you as a mother have total control over a 1.5-year-old in terms of she's not controlling the situation if you don't want her to. So you just kind of have to pick, is that a battle that's worth it to pick for you? I think for me, it is so nice for them to get a little free time and you to get a little free time. And if you train her this now, then she'll be used to it her whole life, which would be very nice. But if it's not worth it to you, maybe you could wait till she's a little bit older or something like that.
Nice. A couple church questions. I was
okay.
So one, they just went through a church split. It was a home church. Have we ever dealt with that? It's crazy. We've actually never been part, I guess when I was a child. So I guess my family went through a couple church splits that they were a part of, but since being married, we haven't been through a church split. We've been very close to a lot of church splits, like close with friends and stuff that have gone through church
you're
splits.
right.
But I don't think we've never been through one.
We've never been in the middle of one. Probably because we always leave before it happens.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I'm serious though. Like one happened right after we left a church. We just didn't get in the middle of it, but it wasn't like we were trying to avoid the split. We ended up moving out of state.
Yeah.
So the Lord just kind of protected us from that. So yeah, we couldn't really speak to that. I saw another question on my 8-year-old would like to be baptized. Is that too young? And I would just encourage you to talk to your husband and talk to your pastor about that, because you can get a different opinion from every single person on the internet and probably every single person in person,
Right,
so like
yeah.
what really matters is what your husband thinks about that, your son's confession, and how, if you as parents would like to celebrate that with him in this public way, and then talking to your pastor and seeing if that's going to be something that your church is going to support.
Yeah, what they think baptism is, honestly.
Yes.
It's like, what do they think that is? And
because different pastors have different comfortabilities with when they would like to be a part of baptizing a child. So I think that would have a lot to do with it.
Yeah. Are there any particular ways you serve or have served the church, particularly after having children? Or do you primarily see focusing on your family with young children as taking precedence?
That's a good question. Yeah,
Yeah,
what
it
would
is.
you say?
Yeah, it was interesting because from age like 13 until early on in our marriage, like music ministry, if that's what you want to call it, was something that I consistently did at all the churches I was a part of. So that I was playing violin or leading worship from stage, with the guitar leading the songs.
I'll be right back.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Is that okay? Could I just go get something and put in front of that?
Sure, if you want to. Yeah.
Just
Yeah. All right. Okay, Katie's goners. Nice. And so I led worship. That was the big thing that I did. And then since being married, to the second part of your question, I think that is, that's does tending to your family take precedence. I would say that it has it for us in this season, and we're not limiting ourselves to that in this season. We've talked about our good friends that really headed up the small group kind of that we were a part of for a long time, and that was a big task. It was a big ask on them, and they have more children than us that are homeschooling right now, and that has become a huge ministry to the local church that they pour into. And so I do think that this is going to look different for each family. However, I think the Bible makes it clear you should never be serving the local church at the expense of your family, right? At the expense of your marriage or of your children. And so you always look at it through that priority, like you have to have your home in order to be an effective minister to the local church. And so, it's our heart's desire to be locally, I guess, active with our church, and we don't know to what capacity that is. And so it's gonna, I really think that'll look different for each and every person in the local church. Okay, you got it. Katie's got her little arts and crafts project underway here. Okay, next question. How do you deal with siblings that is usually an instigator, right? With a sibling, he messes up with his, messing with messing things up for their brothers and sisters, um, continually on purpose. And I don't know, Katie, if you can say that we've got one that's been consistently an instigator, but they've all been through seasons of being instigators. Wouldn't you say that? And I think that probably has to do with age and stage. But we usually, I mean, obviously disciplining and training is a crucial part of that, and just working them through that season. But then also, I just get them out of the situation. Just yesterday, as I mentioned in my email, Katie was able to get some time away by herself. And so I had the kiddos, and 4 of them were playing so well together, building a fort. And one of them was really sabotaging it for everybody. And so that one, after after numerous complaints, they had to come spend their time with me, right?
Mhm.
They didn't get to go be with the kids. And so that's like very, very recent for me. I don't know what you would say, Katie.
Yeah, I would say that consistently just taking them out of the situation really helps because they're wanting attention. They're wanting negative attention. So that might be because they need extra discipline. It might be because they're tired for that day. They're just like upset at the world, We all have days like that. And then it might also be because they need more connection. So I feel like taking them out of that situation and pulling them in with me is a way to kind of cover all the bases. Or same with you. Then they're getting one-on-one time with a parent. And I don't like drop everything I'm doing necessarily. I might give them a hug. I might talk to them, or I might be like, "Hey, can you help me make lunch?" Or let's go over something in your school right now. And you do the same thing, pulling them into whatever you're doing if I'm not here.
Right. Yeah.
So
okay,
really
Kate, somebody
helps.
says bravo, Katie. Yeah, I mean, that was actually, you got to admit, that was actually pretty fast. When you left, I was like, okay, Katie's gone
I
for
was just like,
the rest of our time
"Buckle
here.
up.
Yeah.
Here we go."
And you found a solution far sooner than I was anticipating. That was great. Okay. Yeah. How do you train your children to have the 1 hour quiet time for children who are toddlers? I only have one little girl who is
Oh,
a
wait,
year and
we
a half.
did that one.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry.
You just did that. Okay. Okay. Do you have a child that's more hyperactive or more impulsive than others? How do you handle that? My 4-year-old's giving me a run for my money, and I went to homeschool.
Is it a boy?
And then they have a 3-year-old and a 3-month-old too.
Yeah, they got a lot going on. So I think if you have a kind of hyperactive child, then homeschooling is going to be a great option for you because school is just going to is excavate the right word?
Exasperate?
Exasperate. It's going to make it harder just because of the nature of the classroom environment and stuff like that. So I think homeschooling could be a great route, but it's also going to be a lot on you. It's going to be super challenging. I think that my first 2 things are take away all media, like completely. And maybe you already have a screen-free child, but that would be my first thing. And if you aren't real confident in that, I would read the book Glow Kids because it's just crazy how much that can affect a child's hyperactivity. And maybe that's totally irrelevant, but that's just I have to cover my bases. And then the second thing would be taking out food dyes and sugar. And I know this is crazy, but it's made a really big difference in some people's lives that I know. I personally don't notice a huge difference if my kids have food dye at all. Like I won't notice, but I know it is huge for other moms that I know. So for hyperactivity, I would just really encourage getting outside to play for a long time before sitting down. So like play outside for an hour after breakfast, then come in and do 30 minutes of seat work or 20 minutes, then go back outside and play, for a couple hours and then come in and have an hour quiet time. I would just really encourage outdoor play and cut out those other things. And even with boys, we've got 5 and they are so manageable. If you give them so much outdoor time, they come in and they totally focus. But don't have the time when they're on their own, not be sitting down watching something, have them be out, getting out that physical activity in a good way. That'd be my encouragement.
I think that's great encouragement. Even though we haven't experienced, crazy behavior based off of diet, when it comes to nutritional situations, we have experienced that when it's come to kids and screens. Okay, like that has been the number one thing that has helped our children's I guess in every area in their overall behavior is getting them off of screens. And then also, again, this is more from a father's perspective, but it's just a unique opportunity to be proactive. Like when you think of leading, there is an element of being out ahead, right? Like you can't lead unless you're out ahead. And so in a very practical way, just thinking through things ahead of time and having activities in place, having a schedule for their day. I think humans thrive under routine and under structure and under, I guess, boundaries. We all feel so insecure when we don't know where the guardrail's at. We like having a plan for our day, and children are kind of like this caricature of that. Children thrive so much when they have expectations for the day, and they know what it's going to require to meet those expectations. But that requires being ahead as a parent, right? It requires forethought, and it also requires probably physically being ahead of them, like having something prepared for them physically, being out. And this is just a huge motivation for me to stay healthy, to stay vibrant. And that's been probably the biggest thing that's affected my lifestyle changes, meaning changing diet, exercising more, is because I want to have more energy than my kids. I don't want to feel like I'm trying to catch up to them. I want to be out leading them. And so that's again how I approach this as a father to hyperactive kids, is like, hey, you know what? Like, I got this. Like, try to keep up with me. I'm gonna give you so many things that are awesome things to do, right? It's not just chores and it's not just laborious activities, but it's really exciting things, because life is full of exciting things. And then as many as you can do with them, do those things with them and really lead by example.
Yeah, Elisha is the activities director in our home. He teaches all the kids music. He brings them all to practices. He does jujitsu with the boys. So he does practice what he preach there. Okay, looking forward to when you share your vision plans 2026. Yes, that is coming. So we're excited for that too. We just got our big calendar and we've started filling it out. So we will fill you guys in on that. Katie, what did you take from Neolife that helped your hair grow back? Since you asked a couple times, go to nowthatimamotherhealth.com. I think I have my old like story and stuff like that. Advice, let's see here. Will you stick with L names now that you've used each vowel as the secondary letter?
Good question. We maxed out on the vowels. Good observation.
Moving on to the M's.
No. Well, yeah, we'll stick with L's throughout the child rearing process.
Oh man. Let's see. What are your convictions on screens and children? Do your children have any screen time?
Well, I'm just going to actually fess up now, because this is, I'm going to answer two questions at the same time. Okay. So Katie was gone. Everybody's asking what I fed the kids.
They said probably more squirrel. So it can't be worse than that.
Yeah. Well, the squirrel was actually great. But there just wasn't enough of it. Bummer. So I took the kids. This is what happened. It's been getting dark so early here, and I'm sure it is in many parts of the country, but it got dark and it just seemed like it was so long until dinner, and I didn't know what to do with the kids. And I was like, I'm just going to take them out to dinner, because it's like, why?
It's dark at 4.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's like, okay, I got to kill some time until dinner. Let's load up in the car. That'll take, just getting the kids ready takes some time, and then getting them in the car. And this is the thing. I do great, I feel like, with the 5 oldest. It was the baby that really was a challenge for me. Okay, dealing with the baby. So I was like, if I can get the baby in the car seats, then that buys me some time, and then we can go find a food solution. And here's the deal. Katie will not eat unhealthy things hardly ever.
That's not true.
And the kids know that, and I know that. And so they wouldn't have even ever suggested this if Katie was in the car, but we got in the car and I asked them where they wanted to go. And they knew, like, with the absence of mother, that probably anything was a go. And so they all unanimously voted for Red Robin because of the balloons, and just the whole experience. And so I was like, this is the only time we're going to be able to do this, because mom's not with us. So we went to Red Robin, and then
I think you guys went like a year ago
when you were gone. Yeah, exactly. That's why they requested it, is because they know that's the only time we can go, is when mom's not a fan of, Katie's not a fan of Red Robin.
We used to be. That was one of those things, when we were in our 20s, we ate a lot of Red Robin.
We did.
And then I just called it quits.
And then what I'm most ashamed about actually isn't even that. It's that we came home and this is embarrassing, but I'm just going to admit it, is that we watched like 40 minutes, I think is what it ended up being, of Dude Perfects. And again, like, that's just not something that my kids do. We don't do that. And
I specifically don't like Dude Perfects, because talk about hyperactive. I mean, those guys are great. Okay. So it's good fun.
Sure.
But they're just so like,
right. Yeah. It's such
and
fast.
then the kids are like, and I'm like, where'd you get this?
Yeah.
But anyways, honestly, they haven't had any After Effects today.
Nope. Yep. Nope. That it honestly, the the residual damage has not been all that terrible.
I would say we, as a general rule, we watch like one movie, not like we watch a movie as a family, maybe every 2 or 3 months.
Hmm.
And when we do, most of the time they are black and white. And I mean, the last two we've watched are Shakespeare. So it's like, if it's not quoth he, then he
Yeah.
didn't say it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, anyways, well, I will say this though. You guys dropped by the hotel so I could nurse Lyman while
Yeah.
you were in town. And everybody was just matching. Their hair was dialed. They looked so good. I was like, to me, it would have been easier to make dinner than to get these kiddos looking this good.
Yeah.
So you took the harder route, I feel like, going and taking 6 children to dinner.
Well, that's like a known challenge. I think cooking is still such a unique challenge for me. I couldn't picture taking care of our baby and putting my head towards a meal, and really being
Mhm.
able to think towards that. So that's why I opted for that one.
Nice.
Yeah.
You're amazing. Do you ever argue in front of the kids, or what do you do if you disagree with each other in front of the children and things get heated, or do you not allow things to get heated and talk later?
What do you mean by heated? Or we've I've definitely said things I regret to you in front of the kids, where I've just let my pride take over, or my ego get hurt or whatever it is, and have said things that hurt you and make the kids uncomfortable. And so that's something that I think I mean, when I'm just like thinking here in real time, I think it's been like 2 years that I can think
I
this.
was going to say that is not a regular.
No, it's not a regular.
Yeah.
And so it
I
has
was waiting
happened.
until you were done, but I probably should have just interjected.
Yes.
Yes. So, and likewise, I mean, I feel like there have been times when we've maybe gotten in the car, and so we're just having a discussion and then it turns into a disagreement. And then honestly, I'm for the most part to blame, where all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, I shouldn't be disagreeing with you in public right now with the kids being there. So it's like, that's something that we do want to get better at.
That is the nice thing about children growing at the rate that they grow, is that you get to grow with them.
So
And
you
so
get better in your marriage, Lord willing, as you
yeah,
go.
exactly. If you and I'm not saying that we don't, fall even when our kids, and have our shortcomings when the kids get older, but hopefully we're maturing and growing in our faith and maturity as Christians, so that as they're growing and their, long-term memories are being formed, we're more mature, and conversing with each other in a way that's a lot more, a lot healthier than when maybe we're just getting started out with children.
She specifies here anger, yelling, and I would say I'm really grateful you're not a yeller. And we won't talk about me, but no, but I would say when we disagree, we don't yell at each other.
Right. Yeah. That's just, I mean, yeah, I think that's just a self-control thing, or I don't know, just the whole raising your voice. And again, you can be extremely hurtful without raising your voice. You've experienced that from me, but yeah, I'm not like a raise my voice type of person.
So that's nice. I mean, that's a huge gift. And then I would say that as a general rule, I mean, yeah, I probably like yell at our 8-year-old, but I don't yell at you. I need to work on that too. It's most of the time because he just laughs at me. And I'm like, okay, now who's the bigger person? He is.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we still read Proverbs pretty consistently. Almost that's every night we have our family reading night. And so we're not reading every night right now because we started doing some youth sports, jiu-jitsu and gymnastics. And so that takes 2 nights out of our week. But the nights that we're at home reading, Proverbs is a staple for us.
Yeah, that's tricky. What do you do with a busy toddler who's getting into the older children's play downstairs? The older children get frustrated, but I can't follow the toddler around all day. That's real. Our 2-year-old, regardless of what 2-year-old is, we always lovingly call him the destroyer, because it's just the destroyer age. They aren't capable of building. They really love to destroy that stage. And so, honestly, for a lot of things, sometimes I'll let the kids like lock a bedroom door and play Lego or play mag tiles or something like that. And so the toddler's just forced to stay out. But for the most part, I say, hey, I can't take care of so-and-so right now, so you get to play with those things during quiet time. So they have 2 hours while the toddler's napping where they can do Lincoln Logs, trains, get out art supplies, stuff like that. And some of the kids have school during that time, so it's not a total 2 hours of free play for them, but they might get an hour to pull out that stuff. And so then I have things that are more toddler friendly, like, hey, you can play house, you can play outside, you can go on the trampoline, you can do things like that with him. But yeah, I don't usually let them get out stuff where I'm going to now have to spend my whole time just parenting the one toddler.
Yeah, that's good. Oh, maybe one more. So
Okay.
this is a woman. She says, I want to homeschool, but my hubby, her husband doesn't. He usually says, we turned out fine, assuming that you didn't homeschool. And it breaks her heart. Yeah, sorry, but because you feel called to that. I think that that's something that we can all say that's not helpful. I've said that before, where it's like, well, I didn't do that and it worked out all right for me, or I turned out fine. And so I do think the reason we say that is because we're actually not thinking about what's best for our children. We're like, okay, sure, this is what turned out for me, but what's best for my child? Like public school is different than it was when we were going, than maybe when you were going through public school. And even being honest, because I don't like the fact is that yeah, I had my experiences that led me to where I'm at now, but I would not have my children go through a lot of those experiences that I went through. And so I could look at the entirety of my life and say, well, hey, I turned out this way, fine, right? And you're like, well, no, that's not what growth looks like. I think we are told to learn from our mistakes and to then raise our children up in a way that hopefully they experience less of those. Because you could say, well, all the shortcomings, all the sin led to where I'm at right now, right? Like, well, of course, yeah, it got me to here, but I'm going to hopefully teach my children to not stumble in the same ways that I stumbled. And so I think that attitude requires, or sorry, you need to be able to get a bigger vision for your children and to actually feel compelled to give them something better than what you received. And this is no shade on our parents. Like we feel like our parents gave us an incredible life and we feel compelled to learn from our parents and to hopefully make less mistakes because our parents would say themselves they made mistakes and we hope to grow on our parents, stand on their shoulders, so to speak. And I think that is what stewardship looks like. It's like, okay, we received this. How do we now steward this and go forward? And I think that attitude of which I've said before, I've said that exact line, and I hear it said all the time, is like, well, I never did that, and I'm fine. Or it's like, I never did that, and that's not that big of a deal for me. That's just the wrong lens to have on any topic. The lens should be like, how do I best steward this? Sure, this was my experience. Was that best? Is this best for my child? And so trying to convey that attitude, even if your spouse doesn't have that attitude, you taking on that attitude for yourself and saying, okay, what's best for my children? This was my experience. Now it's up to me to steward my children.
And just so your husband doesn't like hate you listening to us, I would say, because this is a husband and not a wife leading out, then your children will be better off being in a public school with you and your husband being united than being home and being homeschooled with you guys at friction, doing that in spite of your husband, right?
Yeah, I mean, the
like
unity and honoring your husband's leadership is crucial.
is a true gift to your kids. And
Right.
so, you want to give your kids the best, and the only option for you to give your kids the best right now is to align with whatever your husband's desire is for schooling your kids and praying that the Lord changes his heart if that's your desire. And so many couples, maybe the kids all go to preschool, maybe they would go to kindergarten, maybe they hit first grade, and then the dad's like, I want them out.
Yeah.
And that happens so much. And so it's like, even if your husband's totally closed off to a different form of education, that's not going to say, 2 years in, he's not going to change his mind, or 5 years in, he's not going to change his mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He loves his kids. He's going to be aware of what's serving them, what's not serving them. And so I think that as long as you're, being a joyful wife and not saying anything that he's going to have to really swallow his pride and ego to come back from, and making it about him or his character or his failure or whatever, then he's going to be a lot more open to come to you and be like, hey, how you wanted to homeschool? Would you still be open to doing that?
Yeah.
So I would really just say, don't say anything you regret.
Right.
Share your heart for sure and your desire, and feel free to bring things along to encourage him. But you have years and years and years to win him over to this, because every opportunity, every year, new school year is a new time to reconsider. So, would you say something to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Too?
And I mean,
you're speaking more to men.
Yeah, I am.
And leading their families.
Yeah. And this, I think, just goes for, relationships in general. If you've got a conviction and you really want somebody to be persuaded, don't attack them as a person and say anything that's going to make it really hard for them to come see it from your perspective, even if evidence is in your favor. You don't want it to become, an ego thing. And you don't want to have this attitude of "I told you so," or that fear that if they come to your seeing things from your perspective, you're going to say "I told you so."
Mhm.
And I know that's easier said than done.
Mhm.
Like everybody wants to win the argument, or like I got to convince you with my evidence and with my case. And I'm not saying you can't present your case and present the
Mhm.
evidence, but do it in a gracious way and do it in a winsome way. Um, with a long term in mind, knowing that like, okay, like I might not convince them this year, but I want this long term, and so I want to make sure I maintain this line of communication on the topic so that it's off limits for forever because of how intense it got.
Yeah. Okay, I
We should
feel
rock and
like,
roll, yeah, folks. Hey, thank you all so much for listening.
yes.
We really appreciate the questions and hearing from all of you. Talk to you next week. Bye bye.
Bye.